Good morning or afternoon or evening or whatever time of day it is to all of those watching this threat hunting live stream today. Today, we're going to be talking about the National Cybersecurity Awareness Month that was started in 2004 by the President of the United States, supported by Congress. A whole big effort to raise awareness for cybersecurity, both for practitioners, which really is what we're going to talk a little bit more about today. Specifically kind of seeing yourself in cyber and all of the things around threat hunting, which is what is it is what we're going to talk about specifically today. But in previous years, it's also talked about a number of different things, raising awareness for individuals that are concerned about their own security organizations, really kind of things of that nature. And to kind of put a shameless plug out there also, it's really fitting because we're hiring a lot of different roles here at Cisco Talos. Myself, I've got 5 roles open. James Boyd, who we'll introduce in just a minute, also has quite a few, or at least one role open that I'm aware of. Which if you're interested during this talk, after this talk, in a little while, certainly feel free to go look at the roles that we have open. You can find them at talosintelligence.com/careers. Or just go to talosintelligence.com and you'll see a careers link sitting right there at the top. Today, I'm going to be your host. I probably should have said that first. My name is JJ Cummings. I lead a threat intelligence team inside of Cisco Talos, doing all kinds of crazy fun things. Today, we've got James Boyd, Alex Karkins, and Edmund Brummagem, who are 3 of our most seasoned and venerable security professionals here in Cisco Talos. I think with that said, I'll go to each one of you guys and kind of ask you to do a brief introduction. Give us your title, position, where you're located, how long you've been with Talos. James, I'm going to pick you to start because that's just the order I'm going in.
All right, that'll work, JJ. Thank you. Hi, I'm James Boyd, and I'm the team lead for the Talos threat hunting. And I'm right out of San Antonio, Texas. So all the Texans that are enjoying life, it's like we have a cold front, so enjoy. And yeah, I've been with Talos for about a year now, but with Cisco for over 3 years.
Awesome. Thanks, James. And to add to that, I'm going to reinforce that it's stinking cold in Texas. I'm in Houston, and I think I had 39 this morning, which is bonkers. Like I'm sitting here trying not to shiver. I was going to put a hoodie or something on, but I'm like, nah, I'll turn the ceiling fan on. Excuse me, that's been on forever. Anyway, Alex, you're next on my list. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Alex Karkins. I'm a threat hunting researcher. I've been with Cisco for over 2 years now, and with Talos for a year. So, and I'm in Wichita, Kansas, and I agree, it is cold. This morning it was like 30.
Yeah, all that Canadian air is coming down, is what they keep telling me, and I believe them for once. I do. I believe them this time. Edmund, tell us about yourself, my friend.
Sure, thank you. My name's Edmund Brummagem. I'm a threat researcher with Cisco Talos. I've been with Talos for about 6.5 years now.
Awesome. Thanks, Edmund. I have to say, it's funny. I've worked with Edmund now for 6.5 years, and I had to ask him before the show, like I had to make sure I pronounced his name correctly, and I was grossly mispronouncing it for what has now been 6.5 years. So I'm sorry about that, Edmund.
It happens.
Yeah, with the apologies in order now, I think I'd like to step into like kind of threat hunting 101, right? Kind of starting with the basics, right? What does threat hunting mean to us? How do we do it here at Talos? Alex, I'm going to pick you to kick us off and kind of tell us, from a threat hunting 101 perspective and those questions. What do you think?
Well, I actually would like to start with like a Cisco definition, or to begin with those. Threat hunters formulate hypotheses from a variety of input variables and apply them to a repeatable process utilizing previously cataloged information to find signs of compromised what have evaded detection. In layman terms, it means threat hunters create hypotheses or hunts from various sources. Intel, it could be malware, observable statistical analysis, personal experience, and ran it against existing data set, and then existing data sets can be different for every organization. To find signs of compromise would have evaded detection, and this process has to be repeatable and continuous. So
awesome.
Hopefully that's kind of answered something.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a complex thing, right? It really can be complex. I guess can you kind of describe a little bit, Alex, how do we do that at Talos, right? How do we take these hypotheses and how do we apply them kind of to our hunting?
I think it's I mean, it could be anything, right? It could be intel which we get from Edmund, for example, or from Talos General, or it could be so for example, for behavioral, right? You can research a specific process and determine, hey, this process has never been spawned by another process, or it's only spawned by one specific. So anytime you see anything abnormal being, if that's a process being spawned by abnormal or abnormally, that could be a potential hunt. And that's where it also you have to run it against the existing data set you have, right? Your telemetry, to find it. And you might not find it today. And that's why this process has to be repeatable, because you might not find it today, but there might be a common situation when you will get that hit. So,
right, gotcha. So definitely paying attention all of the time to a lot of different things, right? A lot of fun stuff. You mentioned getting intelligence from Edmund, for example. So Edmund, I think this next one, just kind of following up on that. What would you say, from your perspective, are the different types of hunting in general, and even specifically, if you want, like what we do here, and then kind of expand that out into, what we typically are looking for, what you're typically looking for when you're conducting these different types of threat hunts?
Sure, thank you. Yeah, so I would say that a lot of it is based around what an organization is interested in tracking or hunting, from a relevant threats perspective, right? Prioritizing what's important to the organization, and that kind of defines the types of threat hunting that will be conducted, right? In some cases, you may be hunting for a specific threat actor, so you may be looking for infrastructure that's being stood up consistent with previous operations or TTPs or methodologies that a threat actor has been known to use. In other cases, you may be interested in a specific malware family or the use of a specific tool set in an environment. So you may be more interested in looking at indicator of compromise data related to a specific malware family, C2 traffic, host-based indicators, which is a lot different than just purely looking for threat actor activity, agnostic of the tool set they may be using. Likewise, you may be interested in specific TTPs. So looking for activity that may indicate, lateral movement or privilege escalation or credential dumping. So in those cases, you're looking for, things like command line execution and other kind of behavioral characteristics that may, be relevant to a specific TTP. And then, that kind of informs how you hunt in the types of telemetry, as Alex mentioned, right? There's a ton of different data sources that you have to pick from in most organizations. What you're interested in hunting and what you're trying to track or what you're trying to identify kind of defines which telemetry sources will work best for you in your investigation.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I'd say, one of the really cool things here at Talos for me is the kind of the richness and vastness of data that we have access to, of telemetry that we have access to, right? If I'm being honest, I feel like sometimes it's almost overwhelming, right? We've got a number of different kind of techniques and systems and partners in place that help us sometimes pinpoint, like, hey, what's really interesting, what's happening right now. And we've got a lot of other kind of really cool things that, while I don't necessarily consider it threat hunting per se, it creates this initial, what's the word I'm looking for here? This initial or early warning indicator, if you will, like this anomalous thing happened, to Edmund's point, right? Like, hey, we never saw this. We've never seen this command line before. So what does that mean? And then it goes to the threat hunting team, and the threat hunting team digs into it to see what happened before, what happened after. Maybe it was just some innocuous thing that happened to occur and trigger this kind of this low prevalence event, if you will. It's kind of interesting. We're talking about threat hunting right now, but it's very akin to and directly informs threat intelligence, right? The way that Alex described threat hunting is really not altogether dissimilar from threat intelligence. I just want to step into this little sidebar for just a second here, because that's where my brain's going. But kind of the difference is we come up with these theories, and I like to think of it more as we work to disprove them from our perspective than to prove them from a threat hunting perspective, if that makes much sense, right? It's kind of like working backwards, but in the dark art of threat intelligence, if you will. That's kind of how I like to look at it. And it's very similar to and informed directly by threat hunting. Hey, this thing happened. What do you think about it? When I look at it, it could be one of 50,000 APTs today, or with 40,000 other names. But that's a whole separate conversation. So very cool. Thanks, Alex and Edmund. Those were, I think that was really good information. And I think we'll kind of move on to this next section. I think what I'd like to talk about next is kind of speaking to the audience, see yourself in threat hunting, right? Relative to, the theme that frankly we have for Cybersecurity Awareness Month right now, which is see yourself in threat hunting. So I guess, what I'd like to kind of delve into initially, give us a brief on kind of what your background is, what your career journey has been, kind of to get to this point, to be able to develop the skills you have that are very important daily, and ultimately how you landed here at Talos. And I'll just kind of go around the horn, starting with James, because I haven't pestered you in a while, James. So it's your turn, buddy.
All right. Well, that's true. You haven't pestered me quite a bit. So, my career started out focused on, I joined the military right out of high school, joined the Air Force, started off doing a lot of secure communications and maintenance. And as I started to grow into the positions and seeing opportunities throughout the Air Force, I ended up within the cyber realm. So I was doing everything from forensics, malware analysis, to creating policies and procedures for operators to use. So, and then after that, retired and decided I wasn't done with this world. I really enjoyed cyber community and continued on. Ended up here at Talos because we had a great idea of starting something, a threat hunting attachment to Secure Endpoint, and we ran with it.
Awesome. Very cool, James. I think that's, we see a lot of trajectories kind of like that in resumes that we receive, certainly. So I think that's a great path to have followed. Obviously, it's done well for you. And, I don't know if I would ever say this publicly. Wait, am I in public? But we do love you. And we love the fact that you're here, James. Edmund, go ahead. Kind of same question for you, right? Educational background, career journey. How did you get here and land at Talos?
Sure. Yeah. So I didn't go to college or the military. Straight out of high school, I was actually waiting tables as my first official job as a high school graduate. But I received an opportunity to kind of have a paid internship doing junior desktop tech support type role. So doing PC support and things like that. I was always into computers as kind of a hobby, and knew I wanted to get into kind of the hacking and security section of tech, even back in the early 2000s when it wasn't nearly as prevalent as it is nowadays. So kind of just worked my way through the ranks of more general IT, doing systems administration, network infrastructure administration, systems design, infrastructure design. And things of that nature before, being able to kind of move over into a security specific role, a lot of, self-study for, certifications along the way. And then kind of got my first security role doing industrial control system security in the nuclear energy industry. And then from there kind of moved into financial services before, kind of coming over into more SOC roles. doing malware analysis, threat hunting for organizations, which translated pretty well to kind of moving into to Talos and making that a full-time job.
Very cool. Very cool. I think I know a lot of individuals also kind of with that trajectory, right? Either that, well, not either that did not have any type of formal, I would call it, education, especially from a computer programming, like any kind of a computer education. Like we have people with us that are physicists, right? Like literally PhD astrophysicists doing really cool stuff. And I think it's really cool to see that, and I think it speaks to the fact that it's, from my perspective anyway, it's more about solving problems than it is about having this crazy education involving all the cybersecurity things. But we can maybe talk a little bit more about that later. I don't want to leave Alex out. I want to find out, Alex, also from you, right? What's your educational background? What has your path been through the years ultimately to land you here at Talos?
Well, thanks. Actually, I do have a formal education. I'm a MIS major grad, and but I ended up after graduating, I ended up in a help desk, which I have to agree, a lot of the practical knowledge is not actually taught in schools. And so I started at the help desk at one of the major telecoms, and then from there, I moved into the NOC environment. So I actually went into the networking side of the things. And this is like Edmund said, early 2000s, we started to have quite a lot of DDoS and noticing on the network side. So it was kind of interesting, and I got interested in the subject as well too. And I got moved on from the NOC. I moved on to a pretty large multinational conglomerate where I would join the SOC team and started as just a SOC analyst and got interested and grew with the company, took some certs and studied and went to the IR forensics. I kind of graduated there to the running an EDR platform for that company, and kind of got interested in EDR and a little bit of threat hunting mode as well too. And what about almost 3 years ago, I found out what Cisco is starting up a new project, and I applied, and I've been here ever since. And I'm happy I've done that choice.
We are too, Alex. I will tell you. Big thumbs up from James there. So, interestingly enough, right? I think the important takeaway to me, anyway, from listening to you three is that educational background isn't altogether that important, right? We have three distinctly unique paths that led to Talos, all of them equally effective, right? Whether it was just a pure hunger, whether it was a transitional component from military related service and a deep interest, whether it was education, directly education, I should say, and a continued deep interest. So I think it's a really cool maybe segue into this next thing that I want to talk about, which I'd like to make this a round table. And I think it's going to be kind of interesting to hear what you guys have to say. But really what I'd like to hear about are, what are the key skills that you all think that are needed to be a successful threat hunter, right? And sure, we could probably talk about these things for a really long time. We kind of think about the really key one to you, right? Or the really kind of pinpoint topics that you think create a great degree of success when threat hunting. And Edmund, I'm going to kick it off with you just because that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll let you guys kind of do it on your own if you want through that, just as a roundtable. Or if not, I'll just, throw the ball at you anyway, because I like doing that. So go ahead, Edmund.
Sure. Thanks. So, I think one of the most important kind of characteristics that, will allow someone to be successful in threat hunting is to have kind of an innate sense of curiosity, a desire to kind of learn how things work, to, put together puzzle pieces to, identify a complete picture of, how things work, what's going on in a specific, thing you might be looking at. And, in a lot of cases, being able to kind of go out and self-learn, self-teach about concepts you may not be familiar with. I think in a lot of areas of threat hunting and threat research, there is not necessarily a roadmap or a specific set of documentation to reference that will answer all of the questions you need to answer about how to hunt for something, or what sort of methodology should be used to pivot to find related information. I think it's really important to kind of have that drive to kind of go out and read the manuals, read documentation, put together it from a bunch of different sources, and just have a willingness to kind of dig in, go down rabbit holes, and until you just determine what's going on, or how something is working, or what it's being used for.
Awesome. I like that approach. Does anybody want to volunteer to be next, or am I going to just throw the ball at somebody and point the finger?
I would kind of concur with Edmund, because I would say inquisitiveness that's the major skill or thing which is necessary, because you got to find out, basically get to the root of the cause of the problem, or hey, just also persistence is important as well too. You might start in this, and then you got to not give up, and patience as well too, because sometimes you don't have documentation, you don't have the information, and you got to dig and try to. And also, what if just basically you got to try it, you got to have persistence to continuously apply it and test it, and hopefully you will find it. It's almost like mining for silver. The more ore you have, you'll end up with something, but it requires a lot of digging.
I like that. That's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like digging for a needle in a stack of needles, right? If you think about Talos, we see a ton of bad
Yes.
stuff across the internet at any given point in time. But identifying what's new, what's interesting, what sort of new techniques, what sort of new methodologies are we seeing is like Alex mentioned, it takes persistence.
True.
Recognizing patterns as well too. That's another thing. Sometimes you see something out of, you're just reviewing the logs, and then you see, okay, this does not look right. And a lot of the times it just, okay, it does not look right. I don't know why, but then and then you start digging as why is it not looking right? Right. And that's when you find some really cool stuff.
Yeah, I would have to agree with both of them. We had this discussion before, and we realized that we're very much on par with each other with the curiosity and everything else. Because when it comes down to it, you have to be patient, not afraid to fail, and to dig deep into technologies that you may not feel comfortable with, but it's gonna you're gonna learn a lot about it, especially through those failures, because that's going to help you at least understand what's going on with the technology, as well as how to defend it.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, right? Like, we deal with so many diverse problems here, because we are looking for threats and attacks against every industry and vertical, and we have nation states. Like, there are so many things that we have to keep an eye out for. It's almost overwhelming at times. The good news is, right, there are no 2 days that are exactly the same. The bad news is also there are no 2 days that are exactly the same, and every day presents a horde, if you will, of new challenges. And I would echo, right? I think these guys answered amazingly well. I would echo the exact things, right? To me, being persistent, being highly inquisitive, and wanting to solve problems at the end of the day, right? And when I see individuals, like you guys, James, Alex, Edmund, like, one of the things that comes to mind for me from managing a team perspective is the drive is so hard for you on yourselves that often we have to step in as leaders and say, hey, wait a minute, like, I know you want to solve all these problems, but let's take a little break so that we don't lose our minds and burn ourselves out. And I'm equally as guilty of that problem, right, of overworking myself. So I think those were great answers, guys. The the next thing I think that kind of makes sense then to step into is, right, we're talking about being persistent and inquisitive, and James really touched on this, right? You're going to learn a lot of really cool things. So kind of in that same line, if someone wants to learn more about these types of things, what resources should they look into, right? What types of things should they look at? And randomly, Alex, you're it, buddy. I'm going to start with you.
I think there's lots of available resources, and a lot of them are open source. I would say the majority of them are open source. I mean, it's you have to pick your passion. I personally like Sands Institute, but I like what John Strand is doing with Black Hill Security. There is lots of certifications available. Twitter Twitter is a great source of intel or information. Because somebody might just post something like, "Look what I found," or and it might touch a subject, which for me is like, okay, and then you start untwining that that ball of yarn to just kind of find out further down to what's there. That's what kind of your curiosity might lead you to. So you never know what you find, but as long as you're trying to find something, you will find it.
I mean, the power of the internet, right? There's no shortage of resources. Some for the better and some for the worse. Again, right?
Yeah.
Take some with a grain of salt. Edmund, what do you think? What are some great resources to learn more that you think would be good to look into?
Yeah, I think it's awesome nowadays. When you think back to the early, even to the mid 2000s, right? The most viable source of information for learning how this stuff works, and how malware works, and reverse engineering and threat hunting, and all of these different skill sets was kind of confined to forums, and that was kind of basically where the majority of the information would lie. Is you would read forum posts where people were dissecting program XYZ, or talking about malware ABC. Nowadays there's so much open source sources of information that you can learn from, and it's fantastic. I always recommend people check out a lot of the open source reporting that's being produced by organizations. Vendor security research blogs are a great source of information and learning in terms of threat hunting. And one of the recommendations I always make to people that are interested in learning more about threat hunting is to read the blogs, and don't necessarily focus just on the story that they're telling about the specific malware, the specific threat actor, but take some time to examine how their methodology works for pivoting between different pieces of information, because that's one of the most key skill sets that you need to effectively threat hunt, is to be able to go from a single indicator of compromise to identify all of the associated activity, all of the associated patterns that may not be necessarily readily apparent when you first start looking. And you can get a lot of really good tips and things to take with you by reading vendor blogs and security research blogs and independent research blogs, because they'll actually walk through how they're doing clustering, how they're pivoting from A to B to C to build a comprehensive picture of activity that's taking place. And I think that's really powerful.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I think take a look at it. That's some really good information, without a doubt. James, what are your thoughts? What do you like to use, or what do you suggest?
So, for me, I'm definitely the type of person that likes to come up with ideas around the community. And so one of the things that I've thoroughly enjoyed and I recommend is hitting up your local B-sides or local DEF CON groups. There's a lot of hacker groups, and security groups in the area, I'm sure. And a lot of ideas get spawned from that, just communicating. And that's always been some of my favorite experiences.
I think that's, excuse me. I think that's and take a drink. Sounded good. You'd think I wouldn't have that problem. I've been drinking water this whole time. What the heck? I think that's a great resource. The other thing that makes me think of is a lot of times these places have, or these communities also have the notion of training, right? Oh, you want to learn to do this cool thing? Well, we're going to do a training on that next month or in a couple of months. Or often they're even looking for ideas, right? What does the community want us to support? Like, what kind of training does the local community want? And I think that's really cool. I think that's a great way to kind of get involved, right? And start to learn. And they're going to point you to, frankly, a lot of the other resources as well that Alex and Edmund talked about, right? These are core resources that are essential and powerful in terms of learning, in terms of maintaining knowledge about what's happening in the real world. What are the real bad guys doing right now, and how are they doing it? So I think some really cool stuff, guys. I think that kind of brings to mind, how then, we've got all of these different things, right? We've identified kind of what our skills and our background are. We've identified resources that we kind of use from a learning perspective. Like, what would you say kind of your typical is not the right word. Let's say most exciting kind of workday look like for you guys inside of Talos? Like, what kind of crazy thing, in so much as we can talk about it, has happened, and kind of how have we gone about dealing with that on a daily basis? James, I'm going to throw it to you because I haven't picked on you first in a while.
All right, that'll work with me. Yeah, so I would say for me, I think probably one of the most interesting days was based on a couple of hunts that I believe Alex was working on that actually triggered some unforeseen things. So I'll bring it up, Raspberry Robin. I mean, so we were looking for something totally different, but the hunt actually triggered on things that Raspberry Robin was doing. And we just kept digging into it. And it was a big win for us, a big find. So, and we're able to use different techniques to piece everything together as well. So if certain thing changes, we could still detect it based on other things. So it was, without going into too much detail, it gave us a lot more coverage.
Awesome. And I think that's an important thing to know, right? Like, we're detecting things that we know about, but in continuing to research, once we detect a thing we know about, we find other behaviors, other tools that allow us to create more detections and expand those hunts in greater ways, which is a really cool and interesting thing about the job, right? Like, being able to do this cool, good thing for the greater good and continue that greater good effort. Alex, let's talk about, tell us about your typical and/or most exciting workday.
Well, I think my typical day normally starts from just going through the intel feeds and basically trying new things and kind of trying, okay, well, if I create something this and push it in and and see if I get any hits. And this is where it becomes exciting. Once I get actually like a hit, or sometimes you create a hypothesis and you put it in and you have nothing is hitting on it, and then long and behold, 6 months later you actually have a trigger, and then you start investigating. It's like, oh my god, it's actually finally triggered, and somebody did this, because I was kind of envisioned, like, from a attacker's perspective, like, how would I bypass defense, right? I might just do this, and then you put it in, kind of like set up a trap, so to speak, and then you actually get a real hit, and then you're like, look at this, and then you get that that kind of exciting urges, like, all right, I got to share it with a team and bring it up, and that's excitement for me.
No, I think that's a great highlight. Being able to find a thing, even if you theorized a thing was going to happen, 6 months later it happens, right? You read about it in a blog post or some type of all source intelligence that you received, and you created detection, and all of a sudden that detection started firing. And I think that's an interesting thing to note as well, is, things aren't always happening all the time, right? There are certain groups and certain tools that are used in really low and slow ways. And as much as I would love to see all of the things all of the time in the entire world, right? We have a vast amount of visibility, but we don't see all the things all the time. We have to wait sometimes until those things actually occur, to Alex's point. But it's really rewarding to me to see that type of a thing happen with our team, when we developed this thing and then all of a sudden it started firing, and we know all about it because we worked on it 6 months ago, kind of thing. So Yeah, that's super cool, I think, Alex. And Edmund, I don't want to leave you out. What do you got for me, buddy? What's your most exciting and even kind of typical day look like?
So kind of in the same to kind of echo what something that James said, one of the things that I really enjoy is, when I'm looking into something, going down a rabbit hole, just trying to find something interesting to dig into further, and I find something completely unrelated to what I was initially looking at, but it presents a fantastic opportunity to really pivot and kind of laser focus on something else. Like a good example was at one time I was doing research and kind of analysis of the DNS behavior of different top level domains. And I identified that a subset of top level domains would automatically resolve any non-existent domain to a specific IP address. So when I started looking at, sandbox detonations that were resolving to that IP address, I identified a bunch of servers that were being at one time leveraged by adversaries, but were no longer actively registered. So I could scoop them up and point that traffic to, in this case, spam traps. And this was SMTP relays that Emotet was using to send massive amounts of malicious email out. But some of the spam relays were no longer valid, but they were available to register. And so I was initially starting out looking at something completely different, but it presented a fantastic opportunity to get a deeper level of visibility into Emotet mouse spam in a much more efficient and effective way.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that I like looking for things and then finding other seemingly related but maybe unrelated. You never know, right? It's a mixed bag type things. Um, awesome. I think you guys are presenting some amazing information. I think this kind of leads me into maybe we should talk a little bit about like what threat hunting actually looks like here at Talos, right? So, kind of what like initially maybe what makes Talos, what makes our approach to threat hunting like better, different, unique, kind of to the rest of the world. And Edmund, since you're talking, I'm just going to keep you talking for now. So, kind of what's your thought about that?
Sure. Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is when you think about Cisco, right? We're not kind of a single product solution provider, right? We don't just sell a firewall. We don't just sell endpoint security. We have products that fit into pretty much every major area of an organization's defensive architecture. And so a byproduct of that is that we have visibility across a ton of different distinct telemetry sets that allows us to kind of be able to build a more complete picture of threat activity that's taking place at any given point in time. And then you kind of touched on this earlier as well. The second kind of aspect of that is, when you think about the size of, the customer base that Cisco has, we're able to do that exact thing at a very large scale, which is something that I think is pretty unique to an organization like Cisco and Talos.
Yeah. I think that's, yeah, I mean, the data sets and the diversity of them are crazy, like I mentioned earlier. And I think that's definitely a cool, unique thing. James, you're next. I'm just going to throw you out there.
All right. Well, to piggyback off what Edmund mentioned, more of the same. So just the sheer scale of the telemetry that we have at our fingertips has been quite humbling, I would say, because it is digging for needles in a needle stack. There's quite a bit of data in there. And that being said, it also gives us a large landscape of applying the what if, what if this happens or what if this could happen? Going back to the curiosity, because the telemetry is so vast, it allows us to run these hypotheses and dig deeper when need be, and find the nuggets that we didn't even realize were there when we're looking for something totally different.
Yeah, it all comes back to this telemetry. I keep hearing telemetry.
Yep.
It's a big deal.
It is. It truly is.
Whether you're us or whether you're a small organization, right? Gathering that information and being able to analyze it in a meaningful way is huge. Alex, what are your thoughts on?
I would say it's not only telemetry, but it's also the talent which Talos and Cisco has. Because a lot of the times, let's say, sometimes I get stumbled, and this is a ability to rely on, reach out to somebody else. Because I have to admit, I'm not I wouldn't say call myself I know absolutely everything. I know what I know nothing, and I try to, like, a lot of the times you stumbled and it's like, okay, who do I reach out? And that's always gives me a chance to, like, reach out to James, reach out to Edmund and other guys on the team to for help or insight. Also, ability to kind of improvise on the fly and maybe try to develop something new and push it into production, kind of experiment. And that's, even though Cisco's is a super large organization, but we still have that creative spirit to create and try new things.
Awesome. Yeah. So I love this. I love what I'm hearing, right? We've got all this telemetry, vast data sources, relying on each other to understand the data for something we might not understand, being able to reach out to different teams, which we've got a lot of teams. We've got a lot of really cool people and smart people that work here, people way smarter than me, which isn't, I mean, that's not a very high bar, if I'm being honest. But this kind of lends kind of to my next question again, which is, so we're finding these cool things. We're talking to each other about, what does this mean? What does it do? What do I look for next? How do we take that then and act on that information when we find these types of threats, when we work with each other, when we dig into this telemetry, right? Ultimately, what do we do when we conduct these threat hunts, and how do we take that and make the internet, or if I can even be so bold as to say world, a better place? I'd like to kind of just make this a roundtable discussion. And Alex, I'll have you start off, and then, you guys just kind of walk through it.
Well, I think first thing is like, we immediately notify our customers, because ultimately this is what they pay us for. Another thing, a major role for threat hunting is improving our product, right? So, and this is a secure endpoint. So we provide feedback to the team who are responsible for creating behavioral protection signatures, or IOCs, to basically implement the test to see, because depending on the size of your sample, some funds might not work, but and this is where we have to kind of provide them the feedback. Hey, here's what we found, can we actually make it better? And then they implement it, in a timely manner. So that's why I would say, immediate response and improving our product.
Yeah, I would just to add to that, I think, one of the other, things that we're able to do is we're able to leverage, the partnerships that we've built across industry to facilitate communication when we see something bad happening on the internet that could potentially adversely impact, organizations or individuals around the world. We can directly communicate what we know and work with within those partnerships to actually do things like take down adversarial infrastructure and to disrupt the operations of adversaries. And while that has a direct benefit to the security posture of Cisco customers, by us being able to disrupt those operations altogether, we also benefit the wider internet, as a whole, which I think is really powerful as well.
That's true. And one of the things I'd like to bring up is, like, with some of our findings, even though it affects our current customers, we do see that some of those, like for instance, with the Raspberry Robin, I'm going to just circle back to that. Those QNAP servers that are being owned aren't necessarily owned by our customers. They're owned by other entities. So what we can do is we actually will reach out to some of them if we get enough information and contact information, regardless if they're an actual Cisco customer, and let them know, hey, by the way, you're infected and you're serving up some malicious content to not just our customers, but the rest of the world. So make sure you take action, because it's not a good thing.
Yeah, right. Taking action is a big deal. And understanding what it is you're looking at to take action. But that's kind of a whole separate conversation. And that's a thing that we would provide as well, right? In terms of when these alerts are sent to customers, or notifications when we believe somebody's been a victim of something. I think an interesting thing too, in terms of how we act on this information, and I'm just going to bring it up real briefly, because it's been a really substantial effort that we've had, and we've learned a lot from it, but would be our efforts in Ukraine. And to aid Ukraine in the ongoing war with Russia. We've been there in country with personnel helping out, developing relationships, conducting threat hunting exercises with partners for quite a while now. I mean, we're close to 7 years at this point, but obviously in a much more focal way with regard to Ukraine. And we've been able to get really aggressive in terms of threat hunting in ways that we might not normally do. And this has kind of helped us understand a little bit more about how individual organizations can kind of take that. Because again, our view is much larger, right? We're trying to protect so many different types of assets in so many different industries and verticals and geographic locations that we have to have this really broad mindset. And we have to be really cognizant of the fact that something that's bad to this organization might not be bad to this other organization. So we've kind of, our takeaway from that is being able to work with intelligence partners, being able to work with customers and help guide them to be much more aggressive, frankly, right? Like, hey, if you think that you don't want this in your environment, be really aggressive and say, I don't want it, kick it out of your environment, make sure you have tools in place to detect it. And we've been able to do that with those customers by putting together targeted teams to help Ukraine, which everybody on this call is a member of one of those teams, or of the larger team effort, I should say, helping with that. And it's been really interesting to learn from, and it's been very, it's fatiguing, but it's also very rewarding. Certainly, I think, it's just been an incredible effort. That's the thing. I'm not going to keep talking about it because, as everybody on this call knows, and probably several people who have already watched me talk, I can just keep talking about what we're doing in Ukraine because it's an amazing, cool thing. I think the next topic that would make sense to talk about would be what do you guys see as significant challenges in the threat hunting community, right? What are the largest barriers or most difficult things that are impacting the threat hunting community today? Edmund, I'm going to throw it over to you. I see you shaking your head, so you're it, man.
Sure. Yeah. So I think one of the biggest challenges in terms of threat hunting is just the fact that it's constantly evolving, right? The threat landscape is constantly changing. It's not stationary. You don't put your hunting methodology in place and then just I'm done. Nothing else to do here. Every day there's something new. There's a new evolution, a change in a specific threat, a change in the way that threat actors are operating, and it's constantly got to stay on top of the latest threats that are out there and how they work, so that you can continue to be able to hunt them effectively. Because if you're using static hunting methodology over a long-term period, it's going to get stale, and you constantly have to reevaluate your hunting methodology for whatever threat it is that you're trying to hunt, and make sure that it continues to remain effective as those threats change.
Awesome response. James, what are your thoughts? Challenges, threat hunting?
Yeah, right now, just knowing that you have the right type of telemetry and data set to actually effectively hunt. Because if you have only outbound logs, or you don't know what's going on laterally within your network. So having the right telemetry, and the most you can, because back in the day, it was a concern. You couldn't hold all the logs, but now that of course, storage gets cheaper and cheaper. Collect as much data as you possibly can, because you don't know what you don't know. So make sure you have enough telemetry that you can actually dive in.
Awesome. I think that's, I've heard telemetry lake. I don't even know how many times. I think I identified it already, even that I keep hearing it over and over. But it's a big deal. Alex, what do you think? Biggest challenges in the threat hunting community?
I would say it's information sharing. Even, let's say, if I do find something, and by the time it actually hits the public, for the blog post or something like this, usually it takes a couple months, and also there is, legal concern as well too about sharing and so on. So, and I think the more we can share about the new and evolving threats, and that's what definitely help us overall the community. Because there might be some new TTP, and it will take time for us to discover it, or to get it out, open.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, right? And it is something that organizations and governments have struggled with for years is trying to share things that are super sensitive potentially in a meaningful way that is actionable and has enough context that elevates the risk to a point where they would actually want to action it quickly, right? It's a tough thing. It is. To me, one thing that I wanted to, I guess, highlight too, as I think about this, and I just mentioned the Ukraine effort that we have, and that's kind of analyst fatigue, right? This notion of analyst burnout or fatigue. And also kind of as we talked about earlier, that I think was highlighted by everybody on here, right? The keys to being really good at this are being persistent, and or at least one of the keys is being very persistent. And in doing so, it's easy to burn yourself out, right? Because there's always bad guys doing bad guy things, and it's never just one of them, right? And you always want to answer the questions. The people are hungry, for lack of a better phrase. But in this Ukraine effort, which is in a sustained war now, right? People are volunteering their time to conduct more extensive threat hunting, right? More targeted threat hunting for these Ukrainian partners that we have. And in doing so, people are burning themselves out quickly, right? So to me, that's a really significant challenge or even risk in the threat hunting community, even in the security community as a whole, if I can be honest, right? Because it's not just, we've got reverse engineers that are, digging into binaries all the time to try and figure out what it is and not getting the sleep that they need, kind of thing, right? So are cognizant of whether you are a professional, whether you're trying to become a professional in security community, or whether maybe you're a manager. Keep a close eye on your people, and kind of watch for kind of wonky signs of fatigue or burnout, because it's a real thing, and you don't want it to get to a point where they're just like, I need to quit, right? Or I need to walk away, or the stress is so much that I have an ulcer or whatever, right? So, yeah, I think. Go ahead. Was there a comment? I'm sorry.
Actually, I wanted to kind of chime in there. One of the things, because it is a real problem. You don't want your team getting worn out. So we've definitely taken the initiative to, things that we have found over the course of our threat hunting. We've noticed that certain things are repeatable, and any tasks that are repeatable, we've actually automated. So that frees up a lot of their issues and their concerns, and allows them to focus strictly on things that don't take up the extra time. So I'm a big fan of automating when you can. You can't totally automate threat hunting, but there's different components in it and different steps that you can.
Heck yeah. That's right. I like it. I like that. I think this will probably be close to my last question for you guys. We're running close on time here. I like to talk too much. Where do you see kind of the future of threat hunting going, right? We're doing cool, crazy things now, but as threat hunting evolves, as the bad guys evolve, kind of where do we see the future going? And Alex, I haven't made you go first in a while, so I'm totally going to make you do it.
I think it's going to only continue to grow. We always have continuous battle, tank versus the cannon. I'm not sure if you're familiar, if you like history terms, our adversaries are constantly improving and changing their tactics, techniques. So we have to stay on top of it as well too, and either be one step ahead of them, or at least try to keep up, in order to improve our defenses. So I think this is still going to continue, and we're just going to see more of this.
Yeah, awesome. I think you're spot on, Edmund.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've seen an evolution in threat hunting and threat hunting capabilities, over the past several years as it continues to mature, across the industry. I think people have gotten much better at being able to hunt in specific telemetry sets for the bad things that they're interested in finding. One of the things that I think that we still need to continue to improve upon is to, as James mentioned, automate enrichment using a multiplicity of different telemetry sources simultaneously and correlate events across all of those distinct data sets in real time to give you a more complete picture of what's taking place, and also a completely different set of potential indicators of interest to identify bad things.
Awesome. Yeah. Things are only going to get more complex, right? James, do you have anything that you might want to add, or?
Yeah, I have some weird pie in the sky ideas, and what I'll do is just say, imagine more analog type data being fed into like a telemetry ingestion. So imagine like CCTVs, just collecting the actual data from that way, and then converting it into telemetry that you can actually hunt against. Like his adversary, I saw this happen. Adversary was located at this coffee shop, and we have confirmation that the attack happened this way. So now you actually have a lot more contacts added.
Yeah. Very interesting. I think those are I think those are spot on observations from everybody. I would echo, right? The bad guys are only going to continue bad guying no matter what their intent is, right? Cyber criminals are going to be there to make money for the most part, and they're going to keep following the money, and more money is going to be involved in online transactions or blackmail or ransomware or go down the laundry list. Nation state actors are going to continue to target other nation states. It's just what's going to happen, right? Because information is being stored digitally, and right, if I'm the bad guy, that's what I'm going to go for, right? I don't have to send somebody to break into a building, right? Not physically, anyway. So I think that's kind of we've got a few minutes left before our amazing producer Madison tells me to shut up. So I'm going to ask one quick question, or maybe a couple. I think we've got a couple of questions. Alex, the first question is for you. Was it difficult for you at first to kind of translate your networking technical skills into a more risk-based mindset for threat hunting? And in doing so, what would you advise to those who have a purely technical profile but lack maybe the softer skills for threat hunting?
Was it difficult? So I used to actually work in the NOC, right? And part of the NOC's responsibility is monitoring the network and look for possible degradation and basically trying to fix issues, primarily, hopefully not when they happen, but also before they arise, right? And this is actually kind of goes the same to the same security model as well too. You might have noticed a problem, but from that problem which you discovered and you learned, you basically push it back to improve your security. So at the same time, if you can, if you like working the network side and you say, hey, this particular equipment is at the end of the life, and I need to, or there's some issues with it, or I can redesign my network to make it better, that's something to apply to security as well too. So there is a definite aspect to it as well too. As far as the soft skills, I know I'm lacking in the soft skills as well too. Anytime I can describe something better to where you can understand in the layman terms, or in where sometimes you work with, I was like, how can I explain it better for me? So I'm still working on it.
I think that's a great soft skill, though. I think that's a great highlight, because I was thinking something totally different with that. I was thinking like meetings with people, right? But honestly, we don't do, well, I do a lot of meetings with people, but like we don't, as threat hunters, generally do a lot of one-on-ones with customers or victims, right? We need to, however, be able to write up a relatively detailed brief about what happened and why that's important to the victim or customer, right? What's the impact of that? But it needs to be in human readable things, right? Or human readable terms. And I think that's a great thing to highlight, because I totally wasn't actually thinking about that at all. I'm like, well, when I'm sitting there talking to such and such, but I still do the same thing. I have to translate it into, human speak, right? And sometimes I have to have my really smart people translate things to me in human speak, because I don't understand the things that they're telling me. happens often with data science, frankly, but that's a whole, again, separate conversation. I think with that, I think we're running out of time, and I want to thank all three of you guys for being panelists today. I think this has been a really great conversation. I hope that the audience got some really good takeaways. We saw these distinctly unique paths to get from, something that was not technology at all, maybe, to I'm doing really cool threat hunting things with technology. And again, shameless plug, check out our website, right, talosintelligence.com/careers. To see what types of careers we have. Maybe there's a spot that we have for you. And certainly don't be afraid to start down that path, right? Get involved in some open source stuff, as it was mentioned. Get involved in some SANS stuff. Go find a B-sides group. Start going to some different conferences, and just engage, right? Even find an open source project to get involved with, which frankly is how I kind of cut my teeth early on with Snort, right? There's no shortage of ways to do it. If you have the desire, you can find a way, right? Just keep trying to do so. So again, I want to thank all of our panelists, James, Edmund, Alex, in no specific order. Thank you guys so much for coming. This has been a lot of fun for me to host, my first thing I ever hosted. So, thanks for putting up with me and listening to these three amazing people.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.